The fact that you have all completed monitors, what your official job is now is to do what? See which ones failed. And this is the way I do it. This is the way I do it. Any questions? Anybody else got something? Monitors? All right. So if a vehicle has its readiness status, the one we're representing here, mode 3 code, what does that mean? Now this is remember, I'm just going to try to remind you that this discussion is about computer control. Is there anybody here who don't know how to find a bad injector? Okay, so this is about the scientific part of the car, all right, the technical end of it. So if you have this, you have evap failure in mode 6, you have a diagnostic code for evap failure, and you have a completed monitor here, what does that tell you about the computer's logic? It's right. It's great. It's right. I don't know if it's right yet. Now, let's not go with right because we didn't test anything yet. You know, just because the computer looks like it's doing, you may want to test something. But do you understand what I'm saying here? I mean, here I'm doing that CSI thing. I kind of hung up on that lately. I don't know when I started watching it, but I go, man, those people are what we should be doing. One piece of information at a time. You know, they don't walk in and go, well, Bob killed her. Bob who? I don't know his last name, but Bob killed her. You know, they kind of like do some stuff. Then that Grissom guy, he always tells them, follow, well, okay, what's he always say? Follow the evidence. And so let's follow the evidence here, all right? So please check the answer that you like the best. This is the readiness status. You got an evap monitor that failed in mode 6. You got a diagnostic trouble code for evap, and then the monitor ran. Check the answer you like the best.
Two and 6.
2 works great for me. 2's the right answer. It's beneficialized now. Walter said it's 2. And I agree so. I don't know if I've ever seen a broken OBD2. How do you define a rich condition? Hush falls over the crowd. It wasn't that hard of a question. Can you say that? Too much fuel or too little air? How do you define a lean condition? Too little fuel or too much? Is that what we do? Is that the best we can come at? Anybody come up with something better? I'm willing to listen. But that's how we do it. Doesn't matter how we think. This is about computer control. I know I keep repeating that, and I'm not trying to be redundant. But the truth is about computer control, it has no care what we think. Computer doesn't care what you think. It doesn't care that you used to have long hair. Now I'm going to start on hair jokes. Okay, well, I apologize for that one. This is important because a couple times tonight I got to remind you that we have an ignition system, and that's not what we're talking about tonight. But rich conditions cause the spark tip temperature to drop, causing fouling and poor drivability. Can we agree on that? And then just the opposite for lean mixers, they're going to cause it to increase, causing in pre-ignition, runs bad. Could we finish both paragraphs with runs bad? All right. Runs so bad it might even set a code. Runs just bad enough to set mode 6 failures, but not a code. Runs so bad it doesn't do other, the customer don't like the way it runs because it doesn't run like it did yesterday. All right. So when we look at this, it's all about what the computer's programmed to do, think, and test. It has nothing to do with what we think. All right? So we know what we know, and we're not going to pretend anymore to know what we don't know. I'm entertaining an idea to you. The idea is the fact that we're going to rely on the computer. And I've been doing it a long time because it got me many, many miles, all right? So who are you trying to please when there's a broken car in your service bay? The computer, Frank says. How do I validate what Frank says? With a diagnostic fault found somewhere in one of the OBD2 diagnostic test modes. Because the truth is, pick one, anything, The computer doesn't like the catalytic converter. Catalytic converter is brand new. Brand new. It just came from G's muffler shop.
That's why it's bad.
But is it good?
If the computer don't like it, are you going to make the mode 6 pass?
Nope.
No, what do you got to do? You got to go get a different one from a good muffler shop. So Frank's right. When there's a fault, you have to please the computer. And business-wise, I don't teach business, but business-wise, there's some type of balance between making the customer happy. It's called lying. All right? You got to please the computer. Well, back up one step. When do you have to please the customer?
After you made a computer.
When there's no fault. When the computer doesn't see a fault and the customer's complaining about the drivability, now you better be a religious man, because you are going to do a lot of praying in the next little while. But what happens is you have to please the computer, the customer, because they don't like what's happening. In my world, I think that's much more difficult than pleasing the computer. All right? So how does the computer determine rich and lean conditions? Oxygen sensor? Anybody else with the right answer? Well, I agree. I agree in this rich and lean world, it kind of does begin with the oxygen sensor. It's based off the oxygen sensor signal. Any questions about oxygen sensors? I'm willing to answer any question about oxygen sensors. Narrow or wideband questions? All right. So we're always trying to find stoichiometric, the most power can be derived from a fossil fuel while emitting the least amount of undesirable byproducts. And what we want is hot expanding gases, and I think you said it best earlier, whatever you said. You didn't impress me apparently because I forgot. Would you repeat it?
We're looking for complete combustion.
Yeah, he wants complete burn. He wants a complete burn. And technically, when we're talking technically, we know it can't happen, but we want the cleanest we can get, blah, 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 blah. So then when you have 10% ethanol, do you have any additives in your gas pumps out here? Okay. When you have that, you got to understand that that changes because that's gasoline. Is it okay, we're going to talk technically. Is that gasoline? Not really. That's called Turleen in the test market. It means gasoline with no additives, and it's a very clean, something like $19 a gallon gasoline. So that's what we live in. If you're really technical, it's 14.68 to 1 or whatever. But that's just where we're trying to get. Do we really deal with air-fuel ratios? Do we? How many people have an air-fuel ratio tool? No, I don't either. What do I really deal with? Values on a scan tool or waveforms on a DSO. So you just got to understand, you got two cars, they're both red, they're both identical cars. One guy uses the cheapest of the cheapest gas, and the other guy uses the cheap gas. Anybody got customers that use good gas? Anybody? Basil, you got any? You got, really? Are you Ural?
He has $10 million worth of cars.
Okay, you're Ural. Right?
Buys his own gas. I
Oh.
don't even know what he buys. He buys some 55 gallons.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I've had cars in my bays where the customer used good gas, and it just screws me up because I'm used to what? Cheap gas. Yes, sir.
You're seeing a variation of the air-fuel ratio just with a car sitting there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, because very few people wait till the tank runs out. And, it's like you ever rent a car and they say, do you want to prepay for your gas? You can bring it back empty. And I go, is that physically possible? When I run out, are you going to come back and push me in? Well, that don't even make sense. So, yeah, you're constantly replenishing your fuel at different locations. And that's not even the big of it. The big of it is that we deal and live in a pipeline, gas line world. You go down wherever you're at here. Jersey, I'm, the Garden State, my butt. I've been here for days, I haven't seen a garden. But what happens is there's a pipeline somewhere, and that frickin' pipeline started in Texas probably, all right? And that pipeline came through a lot of states, and in Texas they pump pipeline gas in it, and then the trucks that take the gas out of that pipeline and put it in, when you see them standing in line, they're up there pouring 5-gallon barrels of buckets of something in their tank waiting to fill up at the pipeline. Those are the additives that Shell wants, that you know, Mobile wants. All of a sudden I can't even think of a frickin' gas, you know, Bob's gas station wants, you know.
Yeah, but I have cars that'll start with one reading when they're cold, and then it'll change. It'll start at 12 and it'll go to 14.7. Car's not running right.
Well, I would like that. We're going to discuss that very thing. What's your first name?
Rich.
Rich, you're probably looking ahead at my slides. Don't do that.
I wouldn't do that. Save my ass.
But what you're doing is you're focusing on the problem. You're focusing where I would like you to focus, and that's on the injector pulse width. All right, so yeah, how many people check fuel here? You have, read vapor pressure? Anybody? No, why talk about you?
Smell it.
You were there with me, Rich. You ain't going to smell nothing. You might smell stuff, but that's the little white line thing.
I smeared off in the tank as it run.
Smeared off? Why would you waste good things?
Somebody did not.
You're a sinner. So when replacing oxygen sensors, as a reminder, don't forget to see if they were contaminated, because the new one's going to get contaminated. That can be from oil, leaded gas, silicone, or whatever. So, you know, just make sure that when you have to replace an oxygen sensor, we're going to base a lot of that injector pulse width correction off the injector pulse width at the oxygen sensor. So go ahead and make sure it's not corroded. Delivery, fuel delivery is the mechanical side of the fuel system, and fuel control is the computer side. You use two different diagnostic test instruments. You use different diagnostic test procedures when you're checking the mechanical side. You may very well have a pressure gauge and a mason jar in your hand, right? No, if you're high-tech like us. No. I still have the same mason jar used on fuel systems when the PSI, well, the fuel pressure was 4 to 7, you know. So, assuming the battery was good. So, the control side, you're going to have a scan tool in your hand. They are two different sides. How do you define which side's causing you trouble? This is, every time at Outback, Pierre says, divide and conquer, and he never says it any other time, or else I'd remember it better. You know, once every 4 years. How do you want to test everything? Is that what you want to do? No, I don't either. I just want to test the bad stuff. I have no magic for that. But I can divide and conquer fuel systems easily. When you divide and conquer fuel systems, you know which tool to pick up. You know what to test, what you're looking for. And you can divide it from the driver's seat with a scan tool in your hand. The two PIDs you want to look at is long-term fuel trim and oxygen sensor voltage. And those are the signals that will help you divide the fuel system. Now, the one thing that you have to do is be quick. So if you're a slow, pokey guy, don't try this. Ain't going to happen. You got to be quick, because you're working with maybe a 16 or a 32-bit computer. Remember, it set a code that you couldn't find after 2 hours of diagnostic. It set it in 0.7 of a second. It's a fast little fellow. All right. Reset fuel trim. Just reset it. Go in there and clear all fuel trims. Car's got to be warmed up. Your computer's got to be, your scan tool's got to be fired up. You got to be quick. Clear it. Shut the car down. Count to 1. Got it. You just all you need is ignition off for just a half a heartbeat. Start it back up, and you already got your PID set up. And here's oxygen sensor. It starts out real low, and you already do this, Rich, because you just said you look at oxygen sensor at startup. So it's really low, and then long term, just instantly, within 30 seconds, starts going higher and higher and higher. The O2 isn't following it. Is that the fuel control or the fuel?